Jennifer Cranston. My clean date is February 19th, 2012. I am 43 years old and I live in Steubenville, Ohio.
Awesome, Jennifer. Thank you so much for taking the time coming out here and agreeing to share your story with us. I'm excited. So we'll just get started right at the beginning. Can you talk about your childhood, what it was like? Did you grow up with both your parents? Did you experience trauma, that kind of thing?
So my mom and my dad separated when I was about 3 years old. My mother quickly remarried and I grew up with her and my stepfather. My biological father was not really in my life, but he was a preacher. So I was technically a preacher's kid, PK kids, which immediately I was hyper and looking for excitement. I had some traumatic experiences, but nothing that I consider that really kind of shaped my life. Just my parents' divorce was an issue, of course. But I've always had issues with fitting in. And I never really felt like I had any friends. I didn't like myself. I had low self-esteem. My mom was kind of verbally abusive. She would say things to me like, you're dark as charcoal, you're ugly, you remind me of your dad. And I carried those scars and I looked for love and acceptance through other people. So my mom got this thing, what was called a CHINS petition. And in Virginia, it's child in need of supervision. I was running away constantly. I was unhappy. I knew that I felt as if she did not love me. I was in the way. I was a nuisance. So, I packed my dog one time, I'll never forget, and put my dog in my book bag and was like, I'm out. And I just walked until I found, I stayed at one little friend's house and their parents, kind of allowed me to do it for a night or so. But when you consistently do that, my teachers started to notice that there was issues. My grades were always good, but my behavior was the issue. I was angry. I was just always angry. Fighting in school, getting kicked out of school for fights. Nothing, other than my behavior. That was the only issues that I had, and it was just all coming out sideways. Absolutely.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you mean, though. So let's talk about the first time that you picked up, that you used or drank alcohol. Do you remember what it felt like, or how old were you?
So my first drug that I used was alcohol, and it was more of for a social acceptability. I had a couple of friends come over from school one day, and there was this cabinet that we're not allowed to touch in my house because, I was a child. But I saw my mom do it. She would take the bottle and she would take a 2-liter and she would run upstairs and lock her door and we would see her the next day. So I, of course, was curious and we decided we were going to play a little alphabet game where we took a shot and I threw up immediately. So that was my first experience. I think I would say I was 11 or 12. Maybe a little bit younger, but I don't think I did it at that particular time to change how I was feeling. I kind of just wanted something to be cool. I wanted to be cool with my friends and,
Gotcha. So let's talk about the progression then.
Yes.
High school, how was that?
So drinking, it escalated through high school. I ended up getting my GED, and I didn't finish high school because I was back and forth different places, living in respite care and foster care and things like that. So initially, all I did was drink, and it got so bad that I remember I twisted both of my ankles in one night. I was 14, 15 years old hanging out at frat houses, and they all knew my name. It wasn't like I was just there one particular Saturday night. It was like, where's Jen? So I became the life of the party and I was always throwing up and passing out and sleeping with people and not knowing who I was with or what I had done the night before. Getting arrested, stealing cars, all of this before the age of 16.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I lived a lifetime.
So after, you're drinking pretty much every weekend, every day?
And also on weekends, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about the progression after that.
So as I got a little bit older, I started, I've always had this fascination with older men because I had this, lack of a father figure in my life.
Right.
And, my dad was a preacher. And then when he left, she married this other guy and I didn't really particularly care for him. So there was no good father figure in my life. So I turned 18 and my boyfriend at the time was 42. And so he had some habits that I picked up very quickly, like smoking crack and smoking weed. And I just was like, whatever I have to do to make you love me, this is what we're going to do. If that means we're going to smoke crack all night together, then that's what we're going to do. And I did not know, but I had opened Pandora's box.
Right.
I truly believe I have this disease and that makes me feel like I need something outside of myself to change who I am and how I feel. And I immediately, I fell in love with it the very first time I used. And it did not take much for me to start selling everything in the house. So he was a weekend user. He had been doing that for years and it suited him. That was not me. I found something I like and I went crazy for it. So I was robbing my own house and selling stuff. And then when there was nothing else to sell, I started selling myself.
So it sounds like you were obsessed with it at this time.
Absolutely. There was something about not caring about how I felt, about how I looked, about what anybody else thought that made me fall in love with using. I felt like I had no responsibilities. No one could hurt me because all I had to do was smoke some more and it would go away. And the obsession very quickly became compulsion. And then I was stuck in this cycle. And it was by any means necessary. I have to get one more.
Wow. And that cycle is it's so hard to get out of once you're in it.
Yeah.
I understand exactly what you're saying, and you described that so perfectly. So, did you stay with your boyfriend?
So he became my husband.
Okay. So yeah.
Yeah, he became my husband, and then in my very first attempt to get clean, I left him.
Okay.
And that lasted. Because at first we believe that it's just the people, places, and things. It's not the drug. It can't be the drug. If I just get away from this person, or if I just move and stay in a different state, or if I just do something different and alter my routine, then the reason that I'm using will disappear. But the core is me. It's always me. It always comes back to me because everywhere I go, and no matter what relationship I am, I'm taking myself with me. So it was years before I recognized that it was something that was broken inside that was causing me to use the drugs as a symptom to feel better. And then the other consequences started to catch up with me. I've been to prison 3 different times, drug-related charges. And my anger got out of control. My husband at that time, I found him in bed with one of my best friends and got a charge behind that as well. Anger got the best of me. I mean, we were all using as well. So I just put myself in some really unhealthy situations. But yeah, so I thought that if I just separated myself or I just moved, I could reinvent myself and everything would change. But I learned that everywhere I went, I took my mess, my garbage, my life, my trauma, my pain with me. It wasn't until I went to prison for the 3rd time that I got introduced to 12-step programs. My clean date started while I was incarcerated, when I actually made a commitment to change.
Yeah.
And that's when I started my time. And in order for me to figure out what needed to change, I had to investigate my disease. I had to learn about what was wrong with me. So I started going to meetings inside the prison, and I learned about different 12-step programs, and I learned about how mental health plays a part in addiction and why it had been so difficult for me to stabilize for so long, and how like all that stuff I thought from my past had been resolved. No, I had just kind of buried it and was like, you're older now, you need to let it go. And I learned that that's not how we work with trauma. That's not how things are resolved. So the first 2 years that I spent in prison, I spent learning about myself and learning about my disease and figuring out what my stressors and my triggers were. And when I stepped out and I got involved with the recovery community in that area, I knew what I wanted, and I knew the kind of people that I wanted to find, and I sought out that group, and I stayed. So for the first probably 5 or 6 years that I was out, I was hitting 3 to 4 meetings a week, if not more. I needed it because my mind was so full of the disease that the only way that I could counteract it was to pour more recovery into it. So like something that's always been taught to me is that I have 2 dogs, and the dog that barks the loudest is the one that I feed the most. So if I have my recovery and my addiction over here, what do I choose to feed? So I fed my recovery as much as I could. I got a sponsor. I worked steps. I learned about the principles inside of the steps. My 12-step community loved me until I could learn to love myself. I was never a person that loved to hang out with females. And I hear that so much from other people as well. But I learned that women were my rock stars. They were my support. They were my sisters. They were my sisters, my mom. They were everything that I needed them to be. And they taught me how to be a mother and how to be a good wife or a good, girlfriend. And they taught me how to be responsible, how to get up and go to work, and how to dress in a way that I could respect myself. They just taught me what it was to be a productive member of society and how to be a woman that I could be proud of, a woman that I could teach my children, hey, this is how you do this. And if you need help, I'm here. So meetings played a big part in that. Mental health played a huge part in it. It's such a big part of my story. I got a therapist, and I love my therapist. She gets a card every year because she has helped me walk through so much stuff. I learned that there's no shame in saying that I have bipolar disorder, and I'm subject to mood swings. And I learned that medication has a place in my life, but I also learned that medication is not a cure-all.
So let's talk about your relationships for a second. How have they improved? I mean, it's been 10 years, so I'm sure
Yes.
you've had a couple of new relationships, I'm guessing. So let's talk about like family members, significant others, that kind of thing.
So my mother and I we're speaking today.
Good. That was my first thought.
Yeah. So that was, and so the big part of the healing that came from that was me letting some stuff go. And remembering that she too is human, and she has her flaws and her issues. And when I began to accept that, I was able to have some empathy towards her and recognize that, she came from a broken place herself, and that she did the best that she could. Other relationships I have 3 children. My oldest I had while I was in active addiction.
Okay.
I did not see her for 17 years. And this weekend I got to go to her college graduation. We are super tight. I hadn't seen her for 17 years. And we hooked back up when she was, I want to say 20. And we had a long road to repairing. But I think we would both say that we have definitely crossed into, not necessarily mother-daughter, but we are really good friends. Like, she calls me constantly. And I am blessed that she still calls me mom, because she doesn't have to.
Yeah.
So that's probably the most significant relationship that's been restored. But I also have a 6-year-old son that has never seen anything like that. He knows that mommy had some issues. And as he gets older, I'm sure we'll talk about it. But he is the child of my recovery. My middle child was born while I was incarcerated. I gave birth in prison. And we're close. I still don't have custody back. And it's, to be honest with you, it's been because of my choice. She was born, I had her for 2 days, and she went with my mother. And that was my second trip to prison. So now she just turned 11. So she stays with me on the summers, put it that way. So she'll be here for the whole month of June and part of July. But I chose to leave her in that environment. That was the only environment that she knows.
Yeah.
So I felt like it would be selfish for me to uproot her and bring her 6 hours somewhere else. And it was a sacrifice.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, good for you for doing that.
learn not to be selfish today.
Exactly. So, what dreams have come true for you, and what hopes do you have for the future?
I get to help other people. That is like, I think a lot of people, and I see it with my clients, everybody gets clean, we all put our cape on and we want to go out and save the world. And it's a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? Because it comes from a place of like empathy and sympathy and love. And I got to wear my cape though, but I take it off occasionally because sometimes I get stuck in my cape.
So can you describe a certain feeling that you have gotten in sobriety, in recovery, that wouldn't have been there in active addiction?
All of them?
Yeah, right.
I mean, so responsibility and accountability is something that I didn't have, and I purposely didn't have it. I didn't want it. So,
Exactly.
Yeah, we didn't want none of that. And I'm not a stranger to pain, and I'm not a stranger to failure, but it doesn't control me anymore. Like, it doesn't feel like if something doesn't go my way or if things get hard, I don't feel like I have to run. You know, I still fight that feeling because it's my first instinct is fight or flight. I gotta go. This is life is showing up, and I'm tired of adulting today, that kind of thing. And I think about it, but I just don't react anymore because what I've learned through having a higher power and through being involved in recovery communities is that this too is definitely going to pass. The only constant in life is change. So it's going to change. It's got to get better. If it doesn't get better, I play a part in things today, and I can't blame everything on other people. So yeah, I'm responsible, and that's okay.
That is okay.
It is okay.
And what have you learned from your addiction?
What have I learned? It's a really good question. I've learned so much. The positive things that I have learned from my addiction, I would say how strong I am. How strong I am. I can be as broken as I am. I am never destroyed. I am so resilient, and I am stronger than probably I even think that I am. And that's what gives me comfort, is that if I can get through that, nothing is impossible.
Yeah, nothing will stand in your way.
No.
For somebody out there struggling, can you share some words of hope?
Absolutely. My number one thing that I would tell anybody is do not give up. There is somebody somewhere that will help you. Keep asking until you get to the person that has the connection, that knows the number to call, that has that friend that works at this treatment center that can get you in. Don't give up. As long as there's breath, there's hope.
I love that too. All right. Well, we covered a lot. We definitely covered a lot.
I'm a talker.
No, I said I love that. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you that you wanted to share? We talked about mental health, which is a big, huge thing that sometimes is overlooked. I love that you highlighted that.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about the trauma. Anything else that we didn't cover that you wanted to share?
Yes. I want to share about medication-assisted treatment. And the reason I want to say that is because for so long I had such a very narrow view about it. And because of the kind of work that I do, I believe that there is a place for everyone and a path for everyone. And my path doesn't have to look like anyone else's. And theirs doesn't have to look like mine. So however you have to get to the room, to this place of recovery, do it. And let's sort out the rest later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not the time to be like, well, you can't take that because I don't care. Take what you need to take, get where you need to get until you can get a clear mind and you're able to make some, good decisions for yourself. And then, the process will go from there. But never feel like because you're on Suboxone or Subutex or Vivitrol that you are not welcome in recovery, because that is not the case.
Right. That is beautiful advice, and
Yes.
I appreciate you sharing that. All right. Well, Jennifer, thank you again so much for
Yes.
coming out and sharing your beautiful story with us. I know for sure it's going to help somebody else out there.
Thank you for letting me come. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.